Hello everyone, our topic today is motivating performance. So in this chapter we'll discuss motivation process, 3 factors affecting performance, 4 content motivation theories, 2 process motivation theories, reinforcement and performance, 4 steps for giving praise, criteria for setting objectives, and 4 parts to writing objectives, enriching, designing, and simplifying jobs, and cultural limitations. So definition and importance of motivation. Motivation is the internal process leading to behavior to satisfy needs. Basically the reason you do anything. Question is, why do people do what they do? Answer, to meet their needs and wants. So it's a process and it's a continuous one. There's a need, then a motive, behavior, which leads to being satisfied or not. The important thing is being able to motivate yourself and others is critical to your career success and life overall. Performance formula. So emotions, behavior to performance. The formula, performance is equal to ability times motivation times resources. All 3 factors need to be very high. If anyone is weak, performance will suffer. When a person's needs are not met, generally they become dissatisfied and become low performers. There are theories for motivation that help us understand and techniques for application that help us implement them. Theories of motivation include content theories, process theories, and reinforcement theories. Here's a look at some of the content theories. Content theories focus on identifying people's needs in order to understand what motivates them. These include Maslow's hierarchy of needs, ERG theory, which stands for existence, relatedness, and growth, 2-factor theory, and manifest needs theory. Maslow's hierarchy is shown in a pyramid in Exhibit 7.1 of your text. Needs are in order from basic to more complex. The idea is you cannot meet higher needs until basic ones are attained. The 5 basic needs are physical, which include food, water, shelter, sex, safety, safe working conditions, and security, social, love, friendship, affection, acceptance, esteem, ego, status, self-respect, recognition, and self-actualization, your full potential. ERG theory, the classification needs is highly debatable. Some say only 2, others say 7. The ERG is a well-known simplification. Aldifer reorganized Maslow's into 3 categories that correlate, and you could take a look at Exhibit 7-1 in your text. The 3 are existence, relatedness, and growth. Existence would include physical and safety needs, relatedness would include social needs, and growth would include esteem and self-actualization needs. How to motivate. So using hierarchy and ERG theories. The general rule of thumb is to meet lower level needs so that people can work on upper levels. With ERG, we ask, what are this person's needs? What needs have been met? What are the lowest ones that haven't been met? Have any higher needs been frustrated, and how? Is the person refocusing on lower levels? And how can unmet needs be attained? 2-factor theory. Hertzberg's 1950s classification of needs is hygienes and motivators. Your motivators and hygienes. If you want to take a look at the self-assessment exercise on 8-1 of your text. Motivators and hygienes. Maslow used 5 needs and Aldifer used 3 needs. Hertzberg used 2 that he called factors, and these are explained in Exhibit 7-2 of your text. Hygienes are lower level needs. They include physical, safety, social, otherwise known as extrinsic needs. They're external to the job itself. They would include pay, job security, job titles, etc. And they keep people from being dissatisfied, but they don't necessarily motivate those people. Motivators, which would be considered higher level needs, would include esteem, growth, and self-actualization, otherwise known as intrinsic needs. They are internal to the individual. They would include achievement, recognition, and challenge. To be truly motivated and satisfied, you must seek and attain internal rewards. In other words, your job must have meaning to you beyond money and titles. Manifest needs theory. McClelland's classification of needs, a personalities-based approach to motivation. Within your textbook, you can see Exhibit 7.3 for a chart that shows comparisons of the 4 major motivation theories. Manifest needs theory says that people basically have 3 needs, and those include achievement, power, and affiliation. Achievement would be, when it's high, it would include problem solvers, goal-oriented like challenges, strive for excellence, realistic risk takers, hard workers, and high performance. In order to motivate them, you need to give them non-routine challenging tasks, lots of feedback, and often increasing responsibilities. For power, for high level, they want to control, are competitive, don't like losing, they're willing to confront others, and they have a low need for affiliation. To motivate, you need to give them lots of autonomy, include in decision making, work alone, would rather work alone rather than in teams, and need to give them the whole task, not just part of it. Affiliation, high affiliation, likes close relationships, need to be liked, enjoy socializing, like to belong to groups and organizations, tend to be low power people, and prefer to follow instead of lead. In order to motivate, they want to work as part of a team, give lots of praise and recognition, and let them train new people on the job. They act as great mentors. Process motivation theories attempt to understand how and why people are motivated. They focus more on behavior than a need. They include expectancy theory and equity theory. Expectancy theory includes Vroom's formula. Motivation equals expectancy times valence. Depends on how much someone really wants something. Expectancy is a person's perception of their own ability and what they foresee as outcomes. Higher expectations equals higher motivation. Valence is the value placed on the outcome or reward. Higher value is equal to higher motivation. Expectancy theory. So how to motivate using this theory? You need to give clear, precise goals, tie performance to rewards, make sure the reward is of value to the person, remember what one person values, another may not, and make sure people believe you will give them the reward. There's also equity theory, Adams theory. It's based on the perception of inputs and outputs. Does what I put into the job equal what I get out of it? People must perceive that they're being treated equal to others, and if they perceive that they're not, then trouble comes from various places. When people think they're being treated with equity, they're more motivated to perform. So most people tend to inflate their own efforts and performance over others, and also overestimate what others earn. Motivating people with equity theory. Be aware that equity is based on perception, and perceptions can be right or incorrect. Some managers may have favorites, and that is inequity. So rewards need to be fair. If people believe they are not being treated fairly, then resentment and retaliation could happen. High performance needs rewarding, so must have clear understanding of what they need to do in terms of an input in order to get a reward, which would be an output. How people feel is what counts in this example. What people know isn't as important as how they feel, and inequity makes for high emotional levels. Reinforcement theory by B.F. Skinner is behavior can be controlled through the use of positive or negative consequences, also known as behavior modification or operant conditioning. It includes 3 components: stimulus, response, and consequences. Stimulus is the event or something that happens. Response would be the behavior or performance, and consequences would be the reinforcement in the form of positive or negative. Types of reinforcement include positive, negative, extinction, and punishment. Positive would be rewarding desired behavior. It increases the possibility of repeated behavior. If you ask someone for money and they give it to you, that would be positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, otherwise known as avoidance, is the removal of something unpleasant, and it increases the possibility of a repeated behavior. In other words, taking an aspirin or ibuprofen, and that removes a headache. Extinction happens when reinforcers are not given. The desired behaviors would eventually disappear. If you don't get a raise, then you tend not to work as hard. Punishment is the least effective method of controlling behaviors. It tends to lower morale and productivity, and it encourages acts of sabotage, theft, and other negative aspects. Schedules of reinforcement. So continuous means every time, no exceptions. Every time there's a behavior, you would reinforce it. You would reward it. Intermittent, we would have a fixed interval, variable interval, fixed ratio, or variable ratio. Fixed interval means reinforcement would have to happen after a set time, maybe a weekly paycheck. A variable interval would be reinforcement would happen after an unpredictable time lapse. A fixed ratio would be reinforcement after a set number of events occur. And then variable ratio, which would be the highest predictor, would be reinforcement after an average or variable or unpredictable number of events occur. The slot machine in a casino is a good example, as it doesn't pay out the same amount every time. It's very unpredictable what you might get every time you pull the lever. So motivating with reinforcement. Key things: you want to make expectations and objectives clear, use appropriate rewards, use the right reinforcement schedule, never reward undesired behaviors, focus on positives and reward those, never go a day without praising, and do things for people and not to them. Motivation techniques include incentives and recognition, objectives and management by objectives, otherwise known as MBO, job enrichment, and job design. Motivation techniques include incentives and recognition, and those two together would equal praise. Financial incentives include pay for performance, profit sharing, stock options, good benefits, and other monetary perks. 4 steps to include in recognition include telling the person exactly what was done right, telling the person why it was important, stopping for a moment of reflection, and encourage repeat performances, saying thank you, or write a note, or send a video, or just encourage somebody in some way in which they realize what they've done is good. Motivation techniques. For objectives, we want to state what is accomplished within a certain time frame. In other words, goals should have a deadline. They should also be written. It's a plan for success. Criteria for objectives or goals include: they should be difficult but doable. They should be reachable. They should be challenging but not impossible. They should also be observable and measurable, the ability to see and evaluate them. They should also be very specific with target dates. You should know exactly when and what. They should be participative. In other words, the employee should have employee input, which would lead to better performance. And also, they should be accepted. Employees must accept and be willing and buy in. Management by objectives, otherwise known as MBO, is a process where managers and employees jointly set objectives for the employee. It includes 3 steps. 1 is to set individual objectives and plans. 2 is to give feedback and evaluate performance frequently. And the 3rd is reward according to performance. Job enrichment is the process of building motivators into the job itself by making it more interesting and challenging. Ways to do that include delegating more variety and responsibility, learning new skills relieves boredom, forming natural work groups, allowing teams to work together instead of in separate offices, making employees responsible for their own identifiable work, putting the worker's name on a label, giving employees more autonomy. Job design is the employee's system for transforming inputs into outputs. The more effective the method, the more productive the employee. Job simplification would include eliminating. If something isn't productive, quit doing it because that's the way it's always been done. Combining. Some tasks can be done at the same time as others. And changing the sequence. Just changing the order in which things get done sometimes makes a huge difference in saving time. Self-motivation. So maybe someone is feeling bored or trapped. So these are some techniques that could be tried. Setting objectives, developing plans, measuring results, and reinforcing results. Motivation around the globe, cross-cultural differences in motivation. So we have the hierarchy of needs, ERG, and two-factor theory. There are also risk-averse countries, which include Japan, Greece, Mexico, and others, that place security at the top. There are also quality-of-life countries, including Scandinavian, Netherlands, and others, that place social needs at the top. Intrinsic motivation of higher-level needs and two-factor theory are more relevant in wealthy societies than in poor ones. Manifest needs theory. The need for achievement is stronger in high quantity of life countries and less in high quality of life countries. Individualistic societies value self-accomplishment, while collective societies value group accomplishment. Equity theory. With individualistic cultures, they're motivated by higher pay. In collective cultures, they're motivated by equality and don't mind the same pay regardless of output. U.S. union workers and teachers tend to prefer equal or merit pay. Expectancy theory holds up well across cultures due to flexibility. It allows each country to adjust rewards based on the rewards of value to their cultures. Reinforcement theory also holds up well across cultures. People universally respond to reinforced behavior. Rules for behavior and penalties for breaking them vary. In the United States, it's much easier to fire people than it is in Europe. Goal setting, more value in countries that have high value needs for achievement, such as the U.S., and less value in countries that have lower level needs of achievement, such as Portugal and Chile.